Hi, and welcome to Chapel Hill Maker. I'm Rachel, and I love knitting and making here in beautiful Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I am coming to you today with a slightly different video just because I just finished my Norma blouse and I am so excited about it and I cannot wait to talk about it. So I didn't want to wait until my next sort of official podcast video. I also sort of got the feeling that I might get a bunch of questions and maybe I can answer them here in case anybody decides they want to make the big cut like I did. So I'll give you the stats and then I'll tell you about my process. I'm sort of inspired by how Stephanie at Edible Thoughts does her project videos, as well as Yeji from Made Co. does hers. Mine's not going to be nearly as good as either of theirs because I didn't plan ahead the way that they do, but just as meaning it's a single project focused recording. So I'm so happy you could be here today, and I am over the moon and so excited to talk about this sweater. So I'm just going for it. But first I'm going to tell you where to find me. If you're looking for me outside of YouTube, I am Chapel Hill Maker on Instagram and Ravelry, and the Stitches and Summer Stitches and Stride MCAL is still going on over in Discord, and you are welcome to join that at any time. There's going to be prizes, and we have just such a wonderful and supportive group there. So I hope you'll join us. I don't normally record kind of in the middle of the day, so hopefully it's not too dark in the background from all the bright light through the window, but like I said, I'm just too excited to wait, so I'm gonna just go for it. So what I am wearing is, in fact, the Norma blouse, and but Rachel, you say it looks like a cardigan. You're right. It is. I decided, and if you've watched some of my previous podcasts, you know I chatted a little bit about going back and forth as to whether or not I was going to steek my sweater or not. And I ended up deciding to do it. I just thought it would be a fun challenge. I wanted to try a few new techniques, and I was kind of on the fence about whether or not I was going to actually steek it. And then I was watching the podcast Claire Likes to Knit, and she is an adorable Australian and amazingly accomplished knitter. And she often goes back and makes adjustments to old knits that she doesn't wear. And she shared one in her last podcast that she cut a pullover that she just found she wasn't wearing. She actually cut like a huge middle piece out of it because she felt like it was too oversized, and then put a button band on, and she did what's called an enclosed steek, or a steek sandwich. And when I saw that, a little light bulb went off in my head, and I thought, I really want to try that. I think Roxanne Richardson may have had a video on how to do it as well. I ended up sort of winging it, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. First, I'm going to go all the way back and talk to you about the yarn. So the yarn I used is Linen Quill from Purl Soho. Most people know about it, tried it, have some in stash. If you haven't yet, join the revolution. It is just a wonderful yarn. It's super lightweight. It is, let me give you the good breakdown. It is 50% fine Highland wool, 35% alpaca, and 15% linen. And this color is my main color, and it's oatmeal gray. And I ended up using, for the size 1 plus button band, I ended up using 4 skeins of this held double. And then my contrast colors, I had 1 skein of each, and I have this much left over. A little more of the green than of the blue. This is Fresh Pickle and Light Cerulean. And they all have like a little bit of a heathered quality to them, just some tonality. I don't know if you can see it on camera. You see it mainly in the main color, where it sort of undulates a little bit between dark and light, and I love it. it turned out I had I thought I had 3 of the oatmeal gray and stash, and so I ordered one more, which was this one, just in case, because I thought I would only need 3 before steeking, which I would have. And then when I got to the button bands, I completely lost yarn chicken, so I knew I needed some more, and I was going to wind this up. And when I looked, the colors were, it's hard to tell with the light, but they were close, but a little bit different. These were many years apart in my purchases. And so I dug around in stash, and sure enough, I had one more partial skein, and that was enough to get me through the button bands, which was amazing. So I used the linen quill held double. It has a little bit of toothiness, not really, a tiny bit of prickle factor, which I think comes from the linen. If you see, it comes by its name honorably. It has these little linen quills that go throughout it, and they have like a little bit of kind of, they're there, but they soften up as you wear them. They're just like little strands of flax. And I will be honest, I pick some of them out as I knit. If it sort of, my hands call attention to it, I just pull it out. And it's kind of fun. I don't know, I kind of like it, like pulling vegetable matter out of more rustic yarns. But this blocked just beautifully. You could see it has this lovely halo. I don't think I told you, this is the Norma Blouse. She's got 3 different Norma sweaters plus a hat from My Favorite Things Knitwear. Sorry, I have no notes, so who knows where we're gonna go with this. But she used mohair and fingering for a DK weight, and I used this linen quill held double, but you can see like it has a lovely halo, so it sort of gives you that mohairy feeling, and I love this so much. We'll see, it's very warm, so we'll see how long I last sitting right in front of the window. I do have my water and sorry. So yeah, so I knit up. You may remember I misread the pattern and I started knitting a size 3, which it's meant to be an oversized sweater, and I have like a 33.5-inch bust, depending on what day of the month it is. And so I tried it on. I think I had told you the story, but I said to one of my knitting group friends, I tried it on for her. She asked me, Tori from Knitworthy said, what size are you making? She was getting ready to cast hers on. I said, I'm making the 3. I'm just getting ready to divide for sleeves. She said, you're what? And sure enough, I looked at the pattern, and I should have been knitting the size 1 or 2 at the biggest. And so I ended up, I was like right here, right after I divided for sleeves, I just cut it and started over again. I did end up using some of that yarn I pulled out. So I probably would have made it with the 3 skeins of yarn if I hadn't had that mishap. But I ended up starting again. And so I've knit this sweater 1.5 times. And so I feel like I'm an expert now. And I'm so happy that I started over again. I literally just cut it and cast on sitting there. And so I just the whole time sort of in my mind thought like it was a little will I or won't I moment. It was, one of the great classic cliffhangers of all time, Luke and Laura, Ross and Rachel, Jim and Pam. Will she or won't she steek it? My family was so tired of hearing about it. My knitting group probably also so tired of hearing about it. I just couldn't decide because it is stunning as a pullover. And I did cast on 3 extra stitches in the middle when I did it, thinking if I decide not to steek, 3 stitches is not going to make a difference in how it fits. And if I do, then I'll have a little more wiggle room for cutting it. And so I got all the way down to the hemline. The length was where I wanted it to be. And that's about when I decided I was going to steek. But I put it on hold. I did the sleeves to see how much it was going to pull up. And then I decided then that I put in some waste yarn to see what it was going to look like. I'll put pictures up here as I'm chatting, but I put some waste yarn in to sort of give myself an idea of what it was going to look like. And then finally Saturday, I was like, okay, I'm going to bite the bullet and I'm just doing it. And so, so that's what I did. I put it on my sewing machine and I sewed just a straight stitch on either side of the stitch that I was going to cut in the middle. So just to back up, if you're new to knitting, steeking is when you cut your yarn after knitting in the round. It's a way of sort of avoiding the slower purl stitches. And so it's used a lot in color work because color work in the, on the right side is a lot faster than color work on the purl side. So so a lot of times you'll add anywhere between 3 and 7 steek stitches to that when you cut the yarn, your yarn doesn't really want to unravel. I know as knitters, that's sort of our biggest fear, right, is cutting the yarn, but your yarn wants to travel this way, not this way. So if you cut it, it's not going to just like all of a sudden disintegrate. And putting those sewn stitches on either side, there's several different ways that you can reinforce a steek, whether it's with your sewing machine with crochet reinforcement or with needle felting are sort of the 3 that I can think of. And I know some people who don't even reinforce it at all. If you're using a really toothy yarn, you don't even need to. It doesn't want to go anywhere. So I just belts and suspenders for me. So I did, I needle felted all the way down the center of the steek. And then I think I have a video, so I can put that up here if I can find it. And then I put it on my sewing machine and just did 1 straight stitch down that row on either side. And so then I just went for it, cut it open. And I'm not gonna lie, I tried it on and I was concerned. I was like, this is going to be, it's just gonna fall open. I might have made a mistake. I don't know. And so I immediately came inside and picked up for the button bands. And I decided to do that steek sandwich, the enclosed steek. And so that's this area right here. And it gives you this really beautiful inside where you don't see the raw cut edge of your steek. I just think it looks so elegant and professional. And I actually really like how it kind of interrupts the pattern here as well. And having that vertical line, I think, is a really nice sort of intersection of the motif. So I picked up for that. I did the first enclosed steek, and what you do is for me, the way I did it, I think I did it a little bit differently than Claire, but I saw multiple techniques online. I picked up my stitches in the front, and then before I picked up the next stitch, I held it over a spare Chowgu cable. On one side I did a cable, one side I did a barber cord. Both worked just fine. I found the cable a little bit easier. It got less tangled in the working yarn. And so that way, once I was done picking up all of my stitches, I had, and I picked them up at a rate of 4 out of 5 stitches for rows. So pick up 4, skip 1, pick up 4, skip 1. And so that way, once I had picked them all up, I had an identical number of stitches in the back waiting for me on a cable. And so I knit 3 rows in the front, then I knit 3 rows in the back, and then I did a 3 needle join. And you can see, hopefully you can see right here, this is where that 3 needle join is. You can see the purl stitches on this side. And to connect those stitches. And then just to make sure that the other side, while the steek was raw and hanging out, which again, like I said, I didn't run, I didn't lose any stitches, nothing happened to it. I picked up and did the steek sandwich on this side too. And so that way they were both enclosed, safely tucked away and ready to do, I did a 7-row button band and I did petite knits buttonholes, but I decided to just place the buttonholes equal with the motif. I thought visually that would be the best sort of way to go ahead and do that. So once, let me think back. Sorry, this is sort of disorganized, but I was just so excited to come on here and talk about it. Once I picked up both of these, I finished my button bands, figured out where the holes were going to go. I then picked up for the collar. In the pattern, she has this beautiful welt right underneath the collar when you pick up. And the way you do that is with a few rows of double knitting. And so I decided that that was sort of what made me think the enclosed steek would look nice, is because it would mirror the, sorry, Sawyer's barking. It would mirror the welt in the neckline. And so I basically followed her instructions for the collar, other than picking up the additional stitches needed to cover the button band here, and added, one more buttonhole. So I did the double knitting. Okay, sorry, had some doggy interruptions. Okay, so yes, the only change I really had to make in regards to the collar was for her double knitting. Obviously, it was knit in the round. So you would do every other row, knit, slip, and then the next row would be round, would be slip, purl. For when you're knitting flat, every row was knit, slip, back and forth. So I don't remember how many rounds it called for in the pattern. I did one fewer just so that I was on the right side when I decreased my stitches after the double knitting. I don't want to give too much of the pattern away. It's a paid for pattern, but essentially you cast on a bunch of stitches, you increase, do your double knitting, and then you decrease by half and do the ribbed collar. And I just loved the look. I just think it's so elegant, and I might be adding this to other colors in the future because I think it's so pretty. It's knit on tiny needles. So the whole sweater was knit. It's a 20 stitch gauge, and it was knit on I knit this on size 6 needles. I used size 3 needle for the hem and the button bands, and she called for a 1.5 needle for the collar, and that's what I used. So it was a little hard on the hands going back and forth with that, with tiny needles on heavier yarn, but it really did produce just a beautiful result. So just to give you one more look at that. Sorry if I hit the microphone. So a couple considerations that I would do differently next time, because I was kind of winging this in case you can't tell, is my hem I would do longer. Let's see if I can show you. Because the bottom 2 buttons ended up closer together than all of the other buttons. So I have thought about maybe even switching this bottom button for a clear button so that, just so you can see how cute the buttons are, so that it's not as noticeable. But I think when it's open, it's not that noticeable anyway. At least that's what my friends have told me. So we'll see. I'll live with it for a little while. But I did pick up these buttons from our local fabric store, Mulberry Silks, which we are really lucky to have such a beautiful local fabric store with a great button selection. So I actually picked up 3 sets of buttons because I could not make up my mind, and drove my family crazy asking for their opinions. And this was sort of the winner in the group. Once I sewed on the buttons, I was just done. And I texted my friends today and I said, gosh, I have like a Norma hangover. I had so much fun knitting this project. It occupied and lit up such a big part of my brain. Like I just was so excited to get to the next motif, to see what was going to happen, to decide how I was going to do all of the finishing. And it really was everything I love about knitting. That fun, creative part. It was easy to knit. The pattern was very clear. people have talked about, the complaint I have read about the pattern is that it's not charted, but if you look closely, it doesn't entirely make sense. You know, you don't need a chart. You could chart it yourself, but there's really just one by one color work in one section. So I didn't find that to be a problem. You do have to read the pattern carefully. That's goes without saying, I guess, but a lot of us sort of skim through it. There were a few parts where I had to go back because I didn't start in the right spot of the one by one, and so it didn't line up perfectly. And so I just went back, and that wasn't a big deal. But it was, yeah, such a fun project. I can't, whether you decide to do it steeked like I did or just as the pullover as the designer intended, I can't recommend it more highly. This is going to be our 2026 Rhinebeck sweater, my knitting group and I decided, and I have decided that I am going to go this year, so I'm excited. Now that I finished this, I'm like, okay, then I'm definitely going. I have the sweater. So hopefully I'll see some of you there and I'll get to show off my sweater a little bit more, but I am just giddy about it. I just love it so much. I don't know if you can see that I kind of match the outside with it, but yeah, today I'm wearing this with my linen pants in Carolina blue, which sort of matches this light cerulean, maybe not perfectly, but looks better in person than on camera. I'm gonna wear it with jeans mostly as my guess, because that's my, you know, fall and winter staple. Today is not a good Norma day. It's in the 90s and really warm and really humid. So as soon as I finish filming, I'm gonna take this off, but I just am excited. I'm so happy to share this with you. It has been such a fun project. How many times can I say that? I'm trying to think if there are any other questions that I know I'm going to get. Hopefully I've answered them, but if not, just put them in the comments below and I will do my best to answer them there. I always try to respond to all of your comments. And if you don't get a response from me on a comment, it's never intentional. It's just because I didn't see it somehow. But I read every single one. I try to respond to every single one, and I appreciate every single one so much. Projects like this are one of the reasons that I love having this channel, because everybody I live with is tired of hearing about it. I have talked their ears off. I have texted my local knitting friends to the point of exhaustion about it. So now I'm excited to have one more outlet to sort of gush about a project that I'm just really proud of and excited about. And it was such a fun challenge to convert this pullover into a steeked cardigan. I think it will get a ton of wear. I was texting my friends today saying I could totally see casting a second one on to wear as a pullover. But as you saw in my unfinished project video, I have a lot of things to work on. So I am excited that you were here to join me today to talk about my Norma Blouse cardigan. And I look forward to hearing your questions, and just thank you so much for liking, subscribing, hyping, engaging, and supporting my channel and all of the wonderful things. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye.